Everybody's ready to go. Let's go ahead and kick this off. Good evening, folks. We are here for the July.
This conference will now be recorded.
I'll start that over. Good evening, folks. We are here for the regularly scheduled July 14th, 2020 City of Aztec City Commission meeting. Go ahead and call the meeting to order. And Commissioner Randall is going to lead us in the invocation, and Commissioner Padilla is going to lead us in the pledges.
Please pray with me. Dear Lord, thank you much for this wonderful day you've given us and this wonderful season we're here in the city of Aztec. As always, Lord, we pray you look over our community and keep us safe, and especially during these times, help us to remain healthy and happy and strong together. Lord, we ask a special prayer also on our children, our parents, and our teachers, as we're still going through an uncertain time on how this next school year is going to go. Help us to make the right decisions for our families and our friends. We know you're always with us, Lord. Just help to give us guidance. Be with us tonight as we make decisions on behalf of the city of Aztec. Help us to keep the entire city in our thoughts as always. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
The pledge allegiance
to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico,
The assembly, perfect friendship among united cultures. Hey. All right, thanks, folks. Just a quick reminder, if you're not actually speaking, try and remember to keep your stuff on mute the best we can, so we can avoid feedback and squealing and stuff like that. So thank you again for being here, and any folks that called in, welcome, and thank you for being here as well. And I would like to go ahead and have Carla call the roll for us, please.
Mayor Snover.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Fry.
Here.
Commissioner Padilla.
Here.
Commissioner Randall.
Here.
Commissioner Lewis.
Here.
All present.
Okay. Next up is approval of agenda items. If there are any items that do not meet the approval for being heard on tonight's agenda, now is the time to remove those items. Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda as given.
Mayor, I move to approve this evening's agenda as given.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Next up is our agenda. Items placed on the consent agenda will be voted upon with one motion. If any item proposed does not meet the approval of all commissioners, commissioner may request that the item be heard under items for consent agenda. Hearing motion to approve tonight's consent agenda as given.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda as given.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Same sign. Okay. Let's see. Carla, do we have any citizens input?
We did not have any.
Okay, thank you. Moving to business items. Business item A, intent to adopt ordinance 2020-507, an ordinance granting a franchise to Comcast Cablevision of New Mexico / Pennsylvania, Inc. to operate and maintain a system in the city of New Mexico.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, thank you, and Commission. Back in November, the Comcast franchise agreement was approved, but there was a pending FCC ruling that that was finalized sometime around the first of the year. And what that FCC ruling said was that Comcast could not give away services like they had done in the past to the city and the local school district. The original agreement, 10.2 and 10.3, I think, referred to those specific items. Those have been taken out of the agreement now to where if any city facility or school district or the Aztec School District decides that department wants cable, we would then pay for the service. In the past, that had been, I guess, for the lack of a better term, comp to the city at no charge. But the FCC ruling has recently changed that to where Comcast cannot do that. I'm not sure if Aaron is on the call or not. Aaron Muffalato is out of Albuquerque with Comcast. And I asked her to join us in case you guys had any questions. There's Aaron.
There you go. Hey, is that all for now, sir?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, that's it at this point, unless Aaron wants to bring up any additional information.
I'll go ahead and allow Mrs. Muffalato. Did I pronounce that right?
Yes.
Okay, I'll give you go ahead if you have anything you'd like to add, and then we'll give commissioners opportunity to ask any questions.
I don't have anything to add, but I will just say, as you may recall, we had this franchise agreement heard in front of you all. Believe it was with COVID, all the months mashed together at this point. But I believe it was last fall, if I'm not mistaken. And then we had to redo this agreement only because we had federal laws change. So within the previous franchise agreement, it said that we were allowing for gratis accounts, which is free accounts. And unfortunately, there's a new federal law that does not allow that anymore. So we're working on removing that language from new franchise agreements moving forward. That's not something we're doing away with right now, especially not right now during the pandemic. But it's something that, in the future, we're looking at having to slowly remove the free services from communities. So if you have any questions regarding that, I will stand to answer.
Thank you very much. Commissioners?
I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
I'm just wondering, so moving forward, I mean, I know just like with any service, you can sometimes call and get a discounted rate or things like that. Will there be a discounted rate for local governments? It's just not free anymore, or what's? I just didn't know where we fall or what you're doing to kind of remedy, if the schools in the city have been getting it for free for so long, if there's anything, better that we get or we can't get. I mean, I understand that it sounds like it's not your guys' fault, it's, federal law, but didn't know what you guys have to kind of help us out.
Yeah, thank you for your question. So yeah, we actually fought to keep this because it was something that we thought was benefiting the communities we serve, but we lost that fight. So in regards to if anybody does want to keep the service, it really depends on what they want, and then we'll get the business involved to see what kind of offers we are able to offer. The only thing we have been offering is the cable, though, so that we can't offer free internet, so we haven't been offering free internet, just for the cable piece.
Okay, well that clears up a lot for me. So it'd just be like cable, just be like cable TV, basically.
Yeah, so currently what we offer is the very basic cable. So that's what we are offering for free for the communities that take advantage of it. So for the communities that do want to keep that, they would just to look at the pricing that we would work with them on, what that would.
Awesome, very good. Thank you, that answered my question.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's just an adjustment out of necessity more than anything, not really, any malfeasance or bad blood with anybody. It's just one of those things that we had to amend due to the FCC ruling. So pretty straightforward as far as I can see. And unless anybody has any other questions, I would like to close the discussion and open this up for business item A. Okay. Let's have a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve intent to adopt ordinance 2020-507, an ordinance granting a franchise to Comcast Cablevision of New Mexico, Pennsylvania Incorporated to operate and maintain a cable system in the city of Aztec, New Mexico.
I second it.
We have a motion and a second. Carla, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Snover,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Fry,
Aye.
Commissioner Padilla,
Aye.
Commissioner Randall,
Aye.
Commissioner Lewis.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, thank you, and thanks, Ms. Muffaletto. You're welcome to continue and watch the rest of the meeting. I think that's the only item we needed you for, so thanks and have a great evening.
Thank you, you too. And just to let you all know, if you weren't aware already, that our Internet Essentials program, we've extended the free offer for those who qualify for Internet Essentials through December 31st. So anybody who qualifies for that is able to receive 3 free months of internet. So,
Right.
just you all know.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks for your time.
All right, good night.
Night.
All right, we are at business item B, 550 Brewing Company LLC rent forgiveness.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, Commission, thank you. This is a request for rent forgiveness for the months of April, May, and June of 2020 due to the COVID crisis by 550 Brewing Company, who is renting space in the hub, which is a city facility. At this point, we still have not received final approval from the state for the sale. But I know Steven's here if he wants to weigh in on this, and then the Pascals are here with us as well. So if y'all have any questions or anybody.
Mr. Mayor, I have some questions.
Yeah, I would like to, let's go ahead and open this up for discussion for business item B. Commissioner Padilla, go ahead.
I have nothing against 550 or anything else. I was a little concerned when I first saw this, that if we're not in violation of donating money, the anti-donation clause, we're using taxpayers' money to waive this. And my second thought about it was, are we setting a precedent for anybody to come to us? Now, I'm not sure. I don't have an issue with it, but I want to make sure that we're not in violation with that.
I think that might be a question for Mr. Saavedra and or Mr. Gobble. I see Mr. Gobble unmuted, so.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And to address your question, Commissioner, I don't think that we would be in violation of the anti-donation clause, just given the fact that we do have a rental agreement and we're deferring or abating rent for a period of a few months while we do conduct the sale. We have a written lease agreement with them, so I don't think that would be a violation, but I could do more research if the commission feels uncomfortable making a decision tonight.
Well, I think it would be prudent that we check that. Like I said, I'm not against it at all, and I don't want to be taken wrong for that, but I've seen too many times in the past that we waive these kind of fees and stuff like that with taxpayers' money, and who's next to come to us and say, would you please waive, your rent, or we're already facing utilities down the road that we're going to do that. Maybe we can put some kind of a time frame on paying this, or even do a, what do you call it, Steve?
Payment schedule?
Yeah, payment schedule with them to try and catch up. I mean, I don't know, I'm a little concerned about it.
Mr. Saavedra?
So, Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
Yes, so let me weigh into Commissioner Padilla's question in regards to are we setting the precedent? So I don't believe the city of Aztec is going to be renting or leasing out any space in the future. If we were, then I believe we would be setting the precedent for that. Secondly, I just want to bring to everybody's attention that the city allowed a temporary use permit to allow individuals or businesses to utilize city property. And though it's not apples to apples, there was some precedent that has been given to allow businesses to utilize city property rent-free through the TUP process. And I just want to highlight how Rubio's is now currently using the city plaza and not paying rent as well. So though it's not apples to apples, there is a slight precedent that has already been set in regards to that matter. And so I just wanted to make sure that that got addressed as well.
Well, I totally disagree with you, Steve, because that TUP was approved just recently and we're going back 3 months. So, you know, I don't, like I said, don't get me wrong, I'm not against it. I just want to make sure that down the road, we don't come up with this. And if your crystal ball says we won't rent city property in the future, I want to see your crystal ball, see when this pandemic's going to end. So, you know, I don't want to be antagonistic or anything, but I just want to make sure that we're doing the right thing.
Mayor,
Mayor Pro Tem?
I just wanted to ask about, it did say that they were able to be a recipient of the PPP program. And so did that, Stephen, maybe you know something about, did that not help them enough to be able to pay their rent? Or is there the possibility of additional funds coming to small businesses that will assist them? I'm hopeful that will, because, you know, they're not the only small business in trouble. And they're important as a business. They're very important to Aztec, and we don't want to lose them. But do you know anything about the help that they received, and was it just not enough to help with rent?
It's a great question, Commissioner. I don't, unfortunately, I think the Pascal's 550 Brewing is probably best to answer that question. I do know that they, unlike a lot of businesses, were forced to completely close down. Right. As some businesses were allowed to do curbside and things of that nature, unfortunately, they had to shut down per the orders. But if Mike Pascal is on the line, perhaps he could shed some light onto what the impact was, and then how the PPE, if at any, has assisted, or if there's still a gap that lags behind.
Okay.
I will sure try. Our internet out here in God's country is a little bit slow, so I have bats. When this happened on our Main Street pizza restaurant, the Trujillos, and if you happen to know them, they are not free with their money either. And they approached us, and because we were 50%, they offered to cut our by 50%. Our rent at the tap room, I think you have to reach out to the city and the commission sooner, and we apologize for that. We did receive the PPP money you're discussing, and it was around $24,000. And with that money, we as I mentioned in the letter, maybe put them out matter, but we pay employees and utilities and telephone service, internet service, all things allowed, and we probably could have removed most of that. The employees, you know, if you guys know anything about the PPP, you know there's some rules and ratios and things, and we managed to keep all of our employees, even though they weren't working, employed. The tap room was a little different because those people usually work part-time and they work 1 or 2 nights a week, and most of those individuals filed for unemployment. And if you're sitting in a businessman's chair, you'll realize that most of the people that filed unemployment weren't overly interested in coming back to work because of the extra $600 they were receiving, which many people were receiving more money to stay at home. But we're just like you guys. We feel like we do quite a bit for the city of Aztec as far as bringing people and the atmosphere of the town, which you guys are trying to change. We're not planning on leaving. If you just tell us no, we'll tuck our tail between our legs and go home. But we were closed for a period of 12 weeks. We lost $30,000 in revenue, and that's just a fact. But we'll honor your decision, and we'll borrow from my wife's savings account and bring you a check. If I could just say one more thing to Commissioner Padilla's concern about the anti-donation clause. I did a quick search regarding rent or abatement of rent. I didn't find any cases out in New Mexico, but definitely one way of taking care of that concern, if the commission didn't feel as if it was appropriate to abate rent fully, you could abate rent partially, and that would definitely take care of that concern. If the commission does have a little bit of concern regarding violation of the anti-donation clause, I'd be more than happy to do some more research. I did do a search of all 50 states, and there really weren't any cases out there, but I'd be more than happy to hit the books and do a little bit more further research.
I don't know. I don't want to speak for the other commissioners. I'm comfortable with that assessment, Mr. Gobble, and I appreciate you doing a quick search because I was initially a little concerned that we weren't certain about that, but it seemed like it was pretty easy for you to find. So I do appreciate that, and I personally, again, I'm not speaking for the rest of the commission, but I'm comfortable with what you found. That it's not I don't think it would be an issue that we would be putting ourselves in any kind of liability. But again, that's my take on it. Is there anybody else that would like to weigh in on this?
Mayor?
Who wants to go first? We have Mayor Pro Tem and Commissioner Randall. Mayor Pro Tem, go ahead, and then Commissioner Randall right after, please.
I just want to reiterate the importance of keeping this business, and the city has already put through the hub a lot of money and work to assist the 550 to come to Aztec, and the Pascals are important to our community, owning several businesses, and I don't want to see them go under. I really don't. I want them to, continue to be in business here. So.
Mayor, I agree. I don't want to see 550 go anywhere or go under either, but I share the same concerns of Commissioner Padilla. And it's hard for me because I keep thinking, yes, we have put a lot of money into the hub and, help get them going and make this work. but that's an issue too, is we put a lot of money into the hub and tried to make it work, and it unfortunately just didn't work out. That's why we're selling it. And another concern I have is how much longer is it gonna go on as we just wait for the state to give us approval? Are we just gonna keep having to, with new orders coming into effect, if they get shut back down or can't work, is this gonna be expected to forgive rent every time they get shut down moving forward? At what point do we try to just kind of cut ties and say, we're selling it, it didn't work? I don't know what the transition is and who at the city needs to work with the Pascals and figuring out, are they staying because there's, the new buyers potentially have contacted them, they have a chance to stay there, or are they staying, to keep working even though we are selling, we're trying to sell it, we're trying to get rid of it on our end because it didn't work. That's my problem is, and I do appreciate Mike Pascal acknowledging, it's 3 months unpaid rent and we're just now getting a request to forgive it. I appreciate his, acknowledgement of that, because I kind of had heartburn with that too. Unless some other city staff was informed or talked to about this coming up and we never were informed of it. But it seems like 3 months later asking, oh yeah, we didn't pay rent for 3 months, can you just forgive that? Have some heartburn with that too, but it's a tough position for us to be in right now. That's all.
Yeah, I kind of at least semi-echo some of the sentiments of everybody so far. Commissioner Lewis, you're unmuted. Did you want to add to the comment, sir?
I did. First of all, I appreciate Mr. Donald looking up that issue about the anti-donation clause, because as Commissioner Padilla brought up, it was a little concern for myself. But I think that it did address it, I think, at least in my mind. And about the loan that he received for the small business loan, I know most of that went to he kept people employed. And that's another issue, another facet of this I think we can't forget, is that while a lot of people were stuck at home, or were unable to work, or some filed for unemployment, that's true, but he was also able to keep people on the payroll and keep functioning at least to some degree. So I think that has to come into the equation as well. So, it's not an easy decision, but it might have been better had to come out at in the middle of it saying, hey, we're behind, we're gonna need help with rent, something like that. But we can't second guess this, because I don't think any of us have been through a pandemic recently until now. So we're all still learning as we go. And this is not just here, it's just about everywhere nowadays. We've had to roll with a lot of different things. And so I think we have to take all the facets into account when we look at this. And I certainly don't want to see, Mr. Pascal lose his business either, or anybody becoming unemployed at this point. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I have one more final comment.
Yes, sir, Commissioner.
I agree with all of you 100%. I don't want to lose a business, and I don't want to do that. But I also think that we need to seriously take a look about how we stand out using taxpayers' money. I wouldn't be adverse to working a payment plan with them or something like that, even cutting some of it. But when you just say, okay, you don't have to pay it for 3 months, I think, again, we're setting the wrong message to other businesses in town who are probably hurting just as bad. And like I said, I'm not a Pascals. I grew up with the Pascals, so I don't have an issue helping. But I think that we have to take a look at, we're actually waiving taxpayers' money. And that's a concern I've had on 2 or 3 phone calls. So, I'll go along with what the rest of the commission wants to do, because I don't want to lose this business at all.
Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, does anybody, either Mr. Saavedra, the city manager, or any other commissioners have any other comments or concerns or questions regarding this before we close discussion?
Mr. Mayor, one real quick comment in reference to Commissioner Randall's question. Yes, I guess the city could have as the sale transitioned, terminated the agreement with the Pascals at 550 Brewing. But we want to see that business succeed here in town as well. And we would hope that would even continue with the new owners, that they would be able to work out some agreement to keep 550 Brewing in the same location. So in the long run, we would love to see 550 stay where they're at currently. They've got a presence established. They've got, a following. But once the sale is finalized, that becomes a business agreement between the new owner and 550 Brewing.
Thank you.
Commissioner Randall?
Mayor?
Thank you.
1 second, Mayor Pro Tem. Commissioner Randall was weighing in.
I appreciate Steve's response. I just wanted to make sure that was on everyone's mind. I'm just trying to help them stay in there with the transition. I mean, I agree. I don't want to just cut them right out, but we just need to, we're in this weird limbo right now.
Yeah.
Like everyone knows, we're in this weird boat and we just have to figure out how to get it. I appreciate Mr. Pascal's comment too on the land, his landlord, at the other location for giving it, 50%, but that's their money. We have to, speak for the entire city.
Right, it's a little different metrics that we're dealing with. Yeah, I agree there as well. Mayor Pro Tem, I'm sorry, Commissioner Randall, were you good? Okay, Mayor Pro Tem?
I just wonder what people would think about forgiving half of the amount they owe us and allowing a payment plan for the balance so that we wouldn't put them in any jeopardy, since we don't even know what's going to be happening the next few months. Just a thought, throw it out there.
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, as the conversation and the discussion progressed, that's kind of one of the things that I was kind of thinking maybe as well, that we could consider doing something like that. And I know that's why we're elected, because we have to make the decisions of what to do. And it's not always easy decisions, and there's going to be folks, no matter what we do on this, or obviously many other issues, but this one specifically that's hand, that there's going to be folks that are unhappy either side of the coin that we decide to go with. So I think of kind of where that place has gone since it started, and some of the, the things which is not reason in itself, in my opinion, to forgive rent. I'm not saying it. I'm just kind of trying to look at the whole picture personally. When you're talking to folks that work for you, look at the whole person and not just that one incident, maybe, whether it's good or bad or indifferent, and you kind of take the whole spectrum into consideration when you make it. And I think from that point of view, the Pascals have done a lot for, the downtown of Aztec, as much as anybody has or could be expected to do. They have at least 3 businesses that I know right off the top of my head, and I've frequented all 3 of them. But I do understand and appreciate the other comments of all the commissioners that, we are tasked with the stewardship or whatever, the fiscal responsibility of all the taxpayers' money. So it's not necessarily our personal desire. We have to be responsible fiscally for every taxpayer in the city of Aztec. And it's a little bit of a difficult decision, but we're not talking about a lot of money, but it doesn't matter. The nickels and dimes add up, of course. So that's kind of the only input I really wanted to put in there without trying to sway either way. I do potentially think that the mayor pro tem might have come up with a good compromise that might work for the collective commission. I don't know. I guess we'll find out here in a minute. Mayor pro tem, you were unmuted. Did you want to add some more?
No. Just wondering if it's worth a motion.
So with that said, I'm gonna go ahead and close discussion unless anybody wants to add anything. I'll give one more shot to, the folks at City Hall, Commissioner Padilla and the city manager, and then of course, Mr. Savager as well. I don't see anybody. So with that said, I would close discussion and ask for a motion.
Okay, Mayor, I move to approve rental forgiveness for 550 Brewing Company, LLC, for the months of April, May, and June 2020 to one half of the 3,300, which would amount to 1,650, and negotiate a payment plan to pay the balance, should that be necessary.
I'll second, Mayor.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Carla, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Snover,
Well, I'm sorry, can we back up just a little bit there?
No.
Mr. Gobble, on that motion, because the very tail end, payment plan if deemed necessary, I think, and I could be wrong, and correct me please, that's why I'm asking, do we need to be a little bit more definitive on that? Are we either gonna do the payment plan or just forgive the other half? I guess is kind of where I'm at on that.
I think if
Either way, I think.
I think if the commission wants to have a parenting plan, a payment plan between the Pascals and the city on the repayment of whatever amount was approved by the commission, I think we probably need to clarify it a little bit, and because there's a little bit of uncertainty there and a little bit of wiggle room in my mind.
Right. Okay. So, I guess I'm gonna throw that back at you, Mayor Pro Tem, and see if you wanna take it.
Okay, I move to approve rent forgiveness for 550 Brewing Company, LLC, for the months of April, May, and June 2020, in the amount of half of what they owe, the half being 1,650, and offer a 6-month payment plan.
How's that sound, Mr. Gobble?
That's fine.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Commissioner Padilla, are you?
I'm good.
Okay, so you're seconding the motion, correct, sir?
Yes.
All right, thank you, sir. We have in a second. Carla, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Snover,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Fry,
Aye.
Commissioner Padilla,
Aye.
Commissioner Randall,
Aye.
Commissioner Lewis.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, folks. I think that was a good discussion. And thanks to the Pascals for coming to the meeting this evening and giving us their input. Moving on to business item C, Friends Animal Society Cat Life-Saving Programs.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor Commission, this is the Best Friends Animal Society is here with us tonight, along with Tina Roper. And Tina will walk us through what the program could do for the city of Aztec. And we will be able to address any questions you have moving forward. So Tina, I'll turn it over to you at this point.
Okay, good evening, Mayor, Commissioners.
Good evening.
So we've had several conversations with Best Friends about this cat life-saving program and what it would allow us to do, because I don't know if you guys pay attention to this like I pay attention to this, but there are cats all over town. There are feral cats all over town, and then cats are allowed to roam free. So there are people's cats all over town. So what this would allow us to do is to be able to spay and neuter those animals and return them to where they came from so that they could, it could continue living its life. But it would cut down on the population in the long term, because if you release them back out there and they're spayed and neutered, then you don't have 3 litters of kittens every year. So that's the gist of it. And I know you guys probably have some questions about this, which is why I'm glad to say that Marla is here with us tonight as well. So she'll be able to answer these questions probably better than me, but do you guys have any questions for me? Or
I do.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Right. All of us got an email this afternoon. I don't know if it was forwarded to you, Tina, from Tanner Jessel, telling us that this was a bad idea. I just wanted to bet you, I'm a cat lover, so I've pretty much been aware of the feral cat problem and issues, and trying to decrease the population and still allow them to live their lives. What's your response to that email?
well, and I will say, and Marla may want to chime in on this in a minute, but I will say that the one part of the email where it says that it's to let the cats just loose because they spread disease and parasites and kill wildlife. The bottom line is they're out there already anyway. I'm not producing more cats to let go in the city of Aztec. I'm just trying to take care of the ones that are here in the city of Aztec. And with this program, because I know we deal with some people right now, I can tell you that like their birds and they have their bird feeders in their yard. Well, part of this grant money is to purchase some deterrents that we can help people loan them out, that it would keep the cats out of their yard so that the cats wouldn't be messing with their birds and things like that. So, I mean, there's options. There'll be more options for us to give people to help keep the cats out of the specific yard if you don't want the cat in the yard. But Marla, are you there?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. And thank you, Tina, for giving me the opportunity to join you all on your city meeting tonight. And thank you, everyone, Commissioners and Mayor, for considering this opportunity for the City of Aztec's Animal Shelter. I would love to, if you all would allow me to take a few minutes to run through kind of an overview of the program. I think that oftentimes for people outside of animal welfare, we think about these things and we talk about these things all the time. And so I'd love to just share some information on the concept of the program, if that would be allowed. Okay, great, thank you. I will.
Go ahead, sorry, I was muted there. Go ahead.
No, that's okay, I saw you. I'll make this snappy. So these programs, which in a nutshell we call community cat programs or cat life-saving programs, have a component that is often of most concern to the public, and that's called the RTF component. And this is where a cat is impounded into the shelter because it's picked up as a stray, either by an animal control officer or a concerned citizen or a complainant in the community, and then it is brought to the shelter. So this cat then would be evaluated for eligibility, a quick health assessment, and also ruling out that a cat has lived primarily indoors or is actually an owned cat. And then we would, for cats who are who qualify for the program, would then be sterilized, vaccinated, ear-tipped, and then returned to the location where they were found. And these programs are truly the only way to effectively curb the overpopulation for cats in the long term. I think we all know that historically we have been removing cats and impounding them into shelters, and it hasn't solved the problem. We are still seeing an overpopulation of cats roaming in communities. And so these programs are also oftentimes the first time a citizen's complaints are truly addressed. So once a cat is impounded and it is indeed associated with a complaint, like Tina mentioned, we will specifically address that complaint. And we as Best Friends will provide this training and resources such as the deterrence to Tina and her staff to adequately respond to complaints that the citizens have regarding cats. But that's kind of generally the nutshell. And obviously the city of Aztec, I think Tina maybe had discussed this previously. We know that this would not be an option for cats coming in from the county or other certain jurisdictions that the shelter contracts with. So we would essentially see this as, you know, a pilot with just the city of Aztec. And I'd love to answer any questions that anybody has as well.
I have a question.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Yes, sir, Mr. Gobble.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've reviewed the contract, and when you state it as a pilot program, so my understanding of the way the contract's written right now is that the contract or relationship between the two parties would just automatically cease after 18 months. Is that correct?
That's not technically correct. No, our funds and our I guess our financial or our equipment support would stop at that point. But I want to be clear, like we do these programs across the country. I mean, we've probably done hundreds at this point, and we never just stop, drop, and run away at the end date of the contract. Our objective is to build a capacity within the shelter in terms of programming, build support within the community for these programs to continue. So we will offer our mentoring and any support that Tina and her staff or the city needs for the continuation of this program.
Is there an option, depending on future funding, of continuing the relationship and receiving grant money after the 18 months?
That is always an option. There have been organizations, Tina talked with a couple that we connected her with, other shelters in similar demographics. One was in Arizona, one was in Idaho, who we did award second year grant funding to. Our hope, of course, because as we all know, funds are limited, especially in the time of COVID, that we find other ways to support the shelter and continuing this program. And I think many times these programs are able to run on their own, especially when cat intake is reduced and we're building capacity within the community to solve some of these complaints themselves.
Your question, sir?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's all I have.
Thank you. Is anybody else? Commissioner Randall?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, even before we got the email, I was kind of freaking out about this one. And it's just because coincidentally, I was actually at the shelter today getting my dogs sterilized. And as I was walking out, there was a gentleman bringing in a crate, and I'm not sure how many cats he had in there, because he was just bringing some stray cats. And so I'm just trying to process in my mind how it would work, you know, explain to people, well, thank you for bringing it in. We're gonna, you know, sterilize it, and we need your exact address because we're gonna drop it off right where we got it from. And then just try to think how people would process that and how that would work. If I understand this right, that's kind of what would happen. And him to say, you know, well, you know, it's pooping in my sandbox, it's fighting with my other cats. Like, what do I do now? Well, we're trying to help the cats live longer so we can get rid of them eventually. I mean, and I understand the long term of it. I'm trying to process how we tell people that, you know, we're basically bringing the strays right back to you guys once we sterilize them. And I think you addressed my first concern I had, as far as I was in my mind thinking, because we do service a lot of the county and Bloomfield and the surrounding area. Aztec's kind of the go-to place for calls. You know, we take care of everybody else, it seems like. And I just don't know. I believe you said it would just be for cats within the city limits. I just don't want all these cats coming in from other places and then us trying to relocate them, but we have to do it in the city. So we're starting these dens. I read about the dens and things like that. I don't think that's what anyone's anticipating. I just wanted some clarity on that, but that's my main concern, Mayor. It's just how we move forward. I understand the idea behind it and moving forward, and I just wanted to try to.
Yeah, Ms. Brown, speak to that a little more specifically as far as how that dynamic is going to work out. Because if somebody brings in some stray cats and says, "Hey, I found these I found this mama and her kitties, you know, and I want to do the right thing. I don't want them to get hurt. I don't want them to get beat up. Or even in my neighborhood, I have a couple of strays that beat my cats up all the time. So I'm not too excited about that cat being dropped back off, you know, at the house next door, you know, where they may not be getting cared for, or they're just outside cats. Mine are indoor, outdoor as well, you know, so I understand there's that dynamic, but, you know, maybe you could speak to that a little bit.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity. These are great questions and very, very common topics that we cover when speaking with cities and communities and shelters about these programs. So first and foremost, our approach is to share information. Many times cats are fighting with other cats due to mating or territory issues. This program, the cornerstone of the program, is sterilization. So oftentimes, a lot of the complaints associated with cats outside are resolved once the cats are sterilized. Male cats don't roam and they don't spray, and they fight a lot less once they are not trying to reproduce. And female cats, once they are spayed, they obviously have no litters. And so that is often the other complaint, is that there are just kittens coming nonstop. So our first and foremost approach is education and sharing information with shelter staff, so they're equipped to have these conversations with the community who come in, and then also with the community themselves. We want to share that information. Commissioner Randall, to your question about a gentleman walks into the shelter with a crate full of cats, and right, he may not want those cats back and back in his community. And so let's just start with one scenario. So he comes into the shelter, he's gathered up all these cats, and he says, I brought them in because I don't want them in my neighborhood. So at that point, our recommendation would be then to explain to him that by removing the cats is not going to solve the problem. There are more cats in the neighborhood that are sure to show up and use whatever resources these cats are coming around for. I think we've all probably heard the vacuum effect referenced in terms of geese and coyotes, and it's a very similar situation here with cats. Cats are coming onto somebody's property because there's a resource available. So whether that is food, shelter, or the opportunity to mate. So we sterilize the cats, we return them to the community, not to that complainant's address. We would never want to put them right back on his doorstep if he's upset about the cats coming back. But then the second piece that is essential is following up with him and assessing why are the cats coming onto his property, and then being sure that we mediate that. If oftentimes we find that they feed their indoor-outdoor cat outside, or they feed wildlife, and so that is obviously going to attract other cats in the neighborhood. Or we find that they have a trailer that is not buttoned up on the bottom, so that's shelter access there. So it is really a combination of both steps. Sterilizing the cats, sharing information, and then specifically addressing the complaints that the complainant has. And then go ahead, Commissioner Randall.
I just want to say thank you, and go ahead, you can finish.
Okay, I was just gonna comment on your question or concern, I guess, about the jurisdiction issues. And to be really clear, we do not want to relocate cats. We do not want to create colonies in new areas. We deem it very cruel and to take a cat from its community and then put it in a brand new community. If we were ever to relocate cats, it would be part of a working cat program in which we have an agreement with the property owner and we go through an acclimation period to make sure that the cats are safe and will actually stick around on that property. So the cats would be coming in from the city of Aztec and then be returned within the city of Aztec. And we aim within, I wanted to run through, I'm sorry, Commissioner Randall, this just brings up a second scenario that I wanted to bring up. So the gentleman comes up with the cats, he doesn't want them back, that's one scenario. Oftentimes though, more often than not, people bring in cats to the shelter because they think they're doing the right thing. And what we can tell them at that point is, if these cats are healthy, somebody is taking care of them. Furthermore, if these cats are friendly, somebody's also loving on them. So somebody may actually be missing these cats right now. So this is where it's really important for this shelter team or the community member to start talking with the neighbors and start figuring out, where are these cats from? And then we still provide that sterilization and vaccination service to the whole cat family. And if the kittens, if it makes sense to move them to adoption, then that's great. If they're all kind of feral, then that's probably not going to be the best option. So I just wanted to weave in that other scenario that I think is far more common than a complainant.
Thank you. And Mayor, I had another question.
Sure.
And I'm basically just going through the list of Aztec animal shelter responsibilities.
Right.
And, as far as changing our policies and doing all this, it just seems like, we need to do a lot. But when it says refrain from testing any program eligible cats for FIV or FELV, which I hadn't looked up what those are, is that something that they should be tested for, or why shouldn't we test for it?
Great question. Yeah, so FIV and FELV are very common cat diseases, and oftentimes shelters test on intake, and that indicates, and that often will inform a shelter's decision about whether to euthanize a cat or not euthanize a cat just upon intake. That is very old school. That is very regressive policies, and more we have an abundance of studies supporting that these cats can live very healthy lives, and a positive test shouldn't mean a death sentence for a cat. So if a cat comes in healthy, that's the biggest indicator that this cat is thriving and doing fine in his or her community. So it ends up really being a waste of resources. It's a waste of money on the test expense, and then it's also a waste on that cat's life by euthanizing an actually healthy animal. Oftentimes cats may test positive and be non-symptomatic, and then several months later, typically the protocol is that you would retest. At that point, that cat is often negative on a test. So if we're not able to hold the cat for a couple of months and do that retest, then we've just euthanized the cat and wasted money on a test.
Thank you. And Mayor, I've got more questions. My main one that I have now, if I may, well, first up, do we need to wait for Friday to come back on?
Yeah, I think Mayor Pro Tem accidentally knocked herself off of there. I'll shoot her.
All right.
Okay, there we go. She's. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Okay. My next question is for Tina, and because I do rely heavily on our staff, their input. I just don't know, Tina, if you've talked to any other cities that have implemented this, and if you really think, I'm sure since you brought it before, so you think it's the right thing to do, but I just kind of wanted to hear, I don't want to use the word try to sell this, but just make me feel a little better about it, I guess, because I do have a lot of heartburn over it, and I think our community would too, just, as you said, without being, informed right away. And there need to be a lot of educating going on, but still, even with that, I'm uncertain about it, but are there a lot of success stories of this working over time, or is it still too soon to tell?
Commissioner Randall, I will tell you right up front, and you can ask Marla, I'm not joking here. I've stressed about this a lot. We've had numerous conversations, and I have been in touch with two other shelters, the one in Arizona and the one in Idaho Falls, and spent a lengthy conversation with both shelter staff people there and asked all the questions that you're probably asking right now. And they have been successful. It has made a difference. I feel bad for the feral cats because I don't think that they get a fair shake. And I think that this spay and neuter is going to ultimately slow down the population, and we're not going to see litter upon litter upon litter coming in every springtime like we do right now. And yes, we're gonna focus on Aztec, and I can't focus on county, and I can't focus on Bloomfield because I don't have any control over their areas. But I feel like in Aztec, with the help that both of these other organizations that I spoke to told me time and time again that everything that Best Friends is telling me is the truth, that they are going to be there with us, they are going to help us, they are going to give us the training, they're going to give us the tools to go out and be able to explain to the people why the cats are coming, what we can do to help them. And I understand what you're saying, because I also had some stress over this whole situation. But ultimately, I do feel like it would be a good thing. So that's my 2 cents. I do also want you guys to know that I respect your decisions 100%, and I want you to be comfortable with this. So please ask questions and let me know. So.
Mayor, I have another question. So, and maybe I'm just totally stupid, but I'm trying to understand, as far as the litters, Tina, how it would, so right now, so say we take a cat and sterilize it and put it back, she won't have any more babies, but what's to keep, whenever we take one out and it gets adopted, or, ends up leaving that area, do we always get more litters because they keep moving in to that same area? But if we not euthanize it, sterilize it and put it back, if we sterilize it and put it back, it'll hold that place basically. I don't know how it would prevent litters upon litters, because if we're already grabbing those cats and taking them out and doing something else with them, putting them back, more cats might still move in, or does that never happen where more cats move in with more cats?
Well, and it's like Marla said a minute ago, more cats will move in, because if you take those cats and you just bring them to the shelter and they don't go back there, they were there for a reason. They were either there for the food, the shelter, or the mate. So somebody else is going to come into that area anyway. And if you spay and neuter, take it back, then that cat is going to not have all the other cats coming into town with it right there. It's a little house,
So it should, in theory, prevent other cats from continuing to move in. Like right now, they just take the place of the next one, but if they stay there, theoretically, they'll keep the other ones out. Where are the other ones at? I guess too is my other thing. Where do the other ones even come from? I don't know. I'm sorry, I have a million questions, but I just keep trying to understand, how this works.
I'm glad you have a million questions. It's good. I appreciate your million questions.
I do too, and if I may, could I offer a couple more thoughts just to add on to what Tina said? So yes, Commissioner Randall, it's a very legit question, and I think you nailed it. Essentially, we do remove a cat, we put that cat up for adoption, but we haven't addressed the resource issue that attracted the cats to begin with. So by sterilizing the cats, putting them back, addressing the resource issue, especially if it's associated with a complaint, we then stabilize that population. Those cats maintain that territory. Cats, as we know, are colony cats. They have a hierarchy, they have a social structure. And so they will maintain their territory, continue to use those resources. And then over time, by natural attrition, their numbers will decrease. We've seen this time and time again. I live in Colorado, and I feed a couple of colonies that are not in my neighborhood, but they're in some industrial areas. And about 10 years ago, this colony was thick of 30 cats. Now there's just 3. So we see this work in rural areas. We see it work in populated areas and suburban areas. It is really about sterilizing the cats and sharing information with the community on why cats are coming in and what to do if you don't want them in your neighborhood, or in your yard, on your property, and explaining the vacuum effect, addressing the resources, and putting the cats back where they are welcomed, and which stabilizes the colony.
All right, thank you. I have another question. So on number 5, it says specific to the RTF program, refuse to impound ear-tipped program eligible cats brought to the shelter and instead help these, businesses, individuals facilitate, the TNR, trap, neuter, and return. Should any ear tip cats be inadvertently impounded, they shall promptly return to their location. So in my mind, again, it's thinking, the guy who brought in the stray, it's an ear tipped one that was, already been through this process. And that means he has to go right back, right?
Yes, but again, it is critical at this point to have a conversation to understand, why is this man bringing in the cat? Is he concerned about the cat's welfare? Is the cat looking sick? Is the cat injured? Is that the reason he's bringing it in? Or is the cat upsetting him because the cat is pooping in his garden or walking on his car? Being that the cat is already sterilized, it doesn't need the shelter services at this point. The cat is healthy, it's sterilized, so we just need to work with the individual and address the reasons why he's bringing in the cat. So again, it goes back to conversations and sharing information.
Thanks. And that, I agree, it goes, a lot of it's going to be conversations and educating. I don't know how easy and well it's going to go over with these people that just want to get cats,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we run into this everywhere. I mean, this is everywhere. And I have to, it always makes me chuckle a little bit, because every community, every shelter staff will say, our shelter, or our community is different. These people just don't like cats. But cats are in communities because people are feeding and caring for these cats. So we have to keep in mind that for every person who's upset about the cat, there's probably 10 people who know that cat and have a name for that cat. And these cats, by and large, are healthy, which is a strong indicator that they're being well cared for.
Cool. Thank you all for bearing with me this evening. So I appreciate all the information. Thank you.
Thank you for the questions. I think you probably asked questions that some of us might have had. So I appreciate you taking the point on that. And I guess I just want to add, and then, we can obviously take more questions or comments or a motion, but I think anything that, one, is being funded by an outside entity that helps us, one, show a little bit of compassion, because oftentimes when it comes to strays and things, that's the thing that gets cut out because of budget constraints and things like that. And that's another slippery slope conversation that I'm not really ready to get into tonight. But I commend Tina first, and the staff that she has. I've brought a couple dogs there in the last couple of months, and I appreciate the hard work they do. And if she is an advocate of this, that tells me, one, that she has confidence in the staff to be able to do the education piece. And these things come down to funding and the willingness of the staff and the department head, in this case Tina, to implement them. So it sounds like she's on board with it, and she's had a lot of conversations and done her due diligence. And in the very worst case scenario, we'll have fewer kittens that, like my neighbor, for example, is very proactive with getting cats spayed and neutered and trying to find them homes, and bless her heart for doing it. But hopefully in a few years she won't have to. And we'll have fewer and fewer. It's going to take some time. It's not going to happen in the next 6 months where suddenly all these cats are going to, we're going to have a smaller colony. And it's a start. And I appreciate that our folks here in the city, and that with the partnership with Ms. Brown, that we're able to kind of shed some light on it and take some action on it, instead of just complain, or in some cases these cats are getting killed because there's no other choice, or it's a budget issue, and that's sad. So, I appreciate the work, and I just wanted to kind of throw that on the end, and I appreciate the questions from the commissioners, especially Commissioner Randall this evening. And does anybody else have any questions or comments regarding this? Hearing none, I want to thank Ms. Brown, and I would entertain a motion. I'm sorry, somebody? I heard a voice. I want to make sure I didn't talk over somebody. Okay, I'll go ahead and close discussion and entertain a motion for item C. Mr. Randall?
I move to approve Best Friends Animal Society cat life-saving programs.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion in a second. Sorry, I just thought I might want to make the motion too. Second, Carl, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Snover,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Fry,
Aye.
Commissioner Padilla,
Aye.
Commissioner Randall,
Nay.
Commissioner Lewis.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-1.
Thank you, Ms. Brown.
Thank you all very much.
Have a great night. Okay. We are at business item D, FY21 funding application, Four Corners Economic Development, Inc. Mr. Mueller.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, Commission. This, as you said, is a funding request for Four Corners Economic Development. We have Mr. Arvin Trujillo here tonight with us. He'll be able to answer any questions that you have. As you can see on the staff summary, last year the commission gave $10,000. Previous years it had been $20,000 annually back to June of 2012. There has been approved or preliminary approved in the budget is $10,000 available, and stand for any questions. And as I said, Mr. Trujillo is here as well.
Thanks, sir. Okay, we'll go ahead and open up discussion. Good evening, Mr. Trujillo.
Good morning, Mr. Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
I guess if you would like, I guess we could, Mr. Trujillo, if you either I'll give you the option to stand for questions first, and or if you have anything you want to add to that before we open up to discussion for the commissioners.
If I could, Mr. Mayor, if I could take a few minutes just to go over some of the areas that we've accomplished and some of the areas we've been focused on, and I'd be more than willing to then be open to any questions that the commission would have.
Yes, sir. Go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I think many of you are familiar with Four Corners Economic Development. Our main focus right now is to really begin to look at how we can begin to diversify our economy here in San Juan County as well as the Four Corners area. We're really focused on bringing the full county together in this effort. One of our major accomplishments at this point, we've had to go through some revisions looking at recovery based off of the current issue with the virus that we have, but we were able to work with the communities to develop a strategic plan with specific objectives as well as a mission to begin to bring the county together on how we would like to move forward with our efforts. We've developed areas that we have actual goal teams in place consisting of community members and businesses, as well as representatives from the different governments, looking at partnership. Another goal team is in organizational development and effectiveness. The third is on business recruitment, retention, expansion. The fourth is in workforce capacity, and the fifth is in data analysis. We do have those teams in place. We were on somewhat of a hiatus when the virus hit back in first part of the year. Then when things began to go into different phases of lockdown beginning in March. But we took a role at that point in terms of just supporting small businesses and pointing them in the right direction to get necessary help and assistance during that period. But we're in the processes now of looking at recovery, focusing on business retention, expansion, new business opportunities. We're also focused on infrastructure development. We've been very successful in moving forward with getting a rail spur here. We've gotten some good things in place. We've got an MOU between San Juan County as well with the Navajo Nation. With that MOU in place, we've been able to move forward in applying for a bill grant planning process, looking at what has already been done. There have been a number of studies that have been done on this particular issue, but we're in partnership with the Navajo Nation now and working towards a right-of-way that would connect San Juan County with the I-40 corridor. And at this point, we're looking somewhere in the Gallup vicinity. But again, we're in that processes of getting that done. We've also, with the MOU team, have also been in discussions with BNSF, Burlington Northern Santa Fe. They are aware of our efforts to move forward. They're supportive and working with us on that. And we're also working on getting an overall communications team together to get a communications plan in place so we can get information out to the various stakeholders here in the county and the overall Four Corners area. And looking at regional development, we're looking at broadband development. We recently got an engineering study done in partnership with Southwest Colorado Council of Governments. That's looking at a fiber optic project that would connect Durango to Cortez, down to Shiprock, to Farmington, back up to Aztec, and then on back to Durango again. They're also looking at the connection and are moving forward in the engineering studies of connecting Dove Creek, Colorado with Monticello, Utah. Once that's in place, that would open up connections to Salt Lake City. And we're also looking at bringing the particular parties together, looking at what we do have with our connections with Albuquerque and getting this loop in place so that we would have good redundancy for this loop. We're also focused on getting the county together to work on a middle mile plan because the Navajo Nation is working on plans on the south side of the river. And we're wanting to work with their group to make sure that we can develop an overall plan for San Juan County that would bring broadband to all the different communities here in the region. So again, most of our efforts have been focused on really bringing the county as well as the Four Corners area together. Looking real quickly at some accomplishments, as I said, we've been able to bring different key stakeholders together within the county, looking at established areas that I mentioned, to begin to look at solutions on how we could look at recovery, how we could look at business retention. We're working with some of our smaller businesses to begin to see how we can assist them with some of the federal programs that are in place, but we're also utilizing that relationship to begin to look at infrastructure development. As I indicated, we got a bill grant in place. We've been able to get letters of support from Senator Romney's office. We've got the whole New Mexico delegation supporting that effort. We've got the Arizona congressional delegation supporting that effort. We've gotten communities out of Southwest Colorado with letters of support towards that effort. The Ute Mountain Utes, the Southern Utes have also sent in letters of support for that effort. So we're gaining a good cross-section of support for this railroad spur effort. Having the MOU in place has really helped us in terms of bringing both the Navajo Nation and San Juan County together. So some of the questions that were there in the past in terms of where should this be developed, where's the right-of-way, how should we start looking at alignment, those are now being answered, and we're doing so in a partnership. And as I indicated before, we've seen some good progress with broadband, and we're wanting to build on that, looking at new developments coming into the area. Also, we're working with the local farmers markets here in San Juan County. We're currently working on developing a partnership with the Northwest New Mexico Growers Market Alliance. We're going to be their fiscal agent and bringing the different farmers markets together here in San Juan County so that we can help them with training. We can look at how we can support small farmers and develop their businesses, and how do we make those farmers markets more effective here in the region. And again, we've been very successful in building our working relationship with the Navajo Nation, along with in Southwest Colorado, the Southwest Colorado Council of Governments, Region 9, and the La Plata Economic Development Association. So again, what I'm looking at, one is asking the commission for your continued support, not only monetarily, but we want to really begin to reach out and have you support us in participating in our action teams, our committees, our focus groups, because again, the idea here is to get more information and from that information begin to determine what are some of those common issues and how do we begin to come together as a full Four Corners or San Juan County community. And once we come together as a San Juan County community, how do we bridge that out to the Four Corners area? And again, we're just looking at your continued participation. We see the important that the full county continues to be a part of this effort. I've been in this position a little over a year now. We've seen some good progress as we're going. We've had to build some things foundationally. We've gotten things in place. We're wanting to move forward with different opportunities that are arising right now with the CARES Act, as well as with the broadband development. And so again, those are some of the things that we're doing right now, Mr. Mayor, and I'm open for any questions that the commission may have for me.
Thanks, sir. I have just, without getting too into the weeds on the rail project, what kind of communication has there been with NMDOT on this? Is there any kind of letters of support from them? Is there any partnering, kind of conversations that have been going on with that?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that's a good question. And yes, we have partnered with the New Mexico DOT. And in fact, they gave us a very strong letter of support for the bill grant application and their support of our efforts, along with the Minerals and Natural Resources Department. So again, having that support there, we're also getting support now from the Economic Development Department now to look at this possibility as we strive to really work on finding ways to begin to provide infrastructure to diversify our economy here in the San Juan County region.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any direct questions for Mr. Trujillo? I'm seeing back and forth, shaking heads. Okay, well, with that said, Mr. Trujillo, thank you, and I'm going to go ahead and open it up for discussion and conversation with the commission. Who wants to start? I will. I didn't see anybody else unmuting, so I'm just looking back at the staff report real quick, and I think maybe folks recall some of the conversations we've had at meetings in the past. I won't rehash too much, but I do honestly have reservations and concerns regarding funding, the funding with ForceEd. According to the staff report, it says recent funding to ForceEd FY19, so June 2012 to June 2019, we have contributed $140,000 of taxpayer money from the citizens of Aztec to the Four Corners Economic Development Group. And I know that it's not totally fair to, it would be like, blaming the guy before you sort of thing, and there's always going to be some of that. And there may be some truth to that, that maybe the folks that came before you in any organization didn't do, you might be going in a different direction or whatever. You can make that argument, and that's a valid argument. My point is that we've given up $140,000, and you all can probably speak or to this than I can. But what has been our concrete return on investment in the Four Corners region? And has there been an improvement in the economic development landscape since we got involved? And I'm posing that to the commissioners. I mean, I'm not expecting anybody to say yes, no, this, X, Y, and Z. But that's kind of just, I guess, a rhetorical question that we have to think about as we discuss funding. Mayor Pro Tem.
You know, my concern is we're in a whole new world as of the last few months. We have no idea what the future looks like, and we have limited funds. And today, if I were going to have to make a choice about, which we are, we've got to be careful with our money because we don't know what's coming in next month. And, you know, we've already been exploring the possibility that we're going to have a 30% decrease in revenue. If I were put in the situation of making a choice to fund the Boys and Girls Club that is providing childcare for people who are struggling and have been unemployed, and this is inexpensive childcare for them, I would be supporting, and we do that every year, but where are we this year, you know, as far as we get down to the nitty-gritty? The seniors are in transition to Farmington overseeing. We have not gotten our information as to the funds that are going to be available for basic needs. I'm talking about food. You know, I mean, we're looking at some very basic things, and I can appreciate these big plans and big projects that are eventually going to pay off for the region. But today, I'm worried about the basic needs of Aztec citizens and making sure that we are very, very careful with the money that we see. I don't even have to explore whether a railroad would be a good thing. Of course it would be a good thing. And, you know, all the activities that the college has going for small business, that's all good. But how much money do we have for these basic human needs in our own community?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Any other commissioners like to weigh in?
You know, I do, Mr. Mayor, please.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Padilla.
You know, you both bring up some very, very positive things on this issue. And Mayor Snover, you did bring up one that I've thought about for years. What has been the return on our investment to Forsyths? And I don't know what they are financially, top heavy or whatever. And I agree with Roslyn 100% that it's time we take a look at our checkbook and make sure we take care of our citizens more than going out. Now, me personally, I agree that a railroad would be good, broadband would be good. They're all great, grandiose ideas. But the five of us I see on that screen aren't gonna live long enough to see it. So we have to protect our people today.
I think
Who are you talking about?
I'm just joking.
Okay, well, I'm saying 50 years down the road, so.
Mr. Mayor?
I definitely respect what you're saying, and I'm sorry, Mr. Padilla, I didn't mean to cut in there. Did you want to add to that? I apologize.
Well, I didn't want to say you all look real old, but I can remember being back on the commission when Forsyth was first brought into the idea. And I was a member of that for the commission. And I always questioned, what are we getting out of it? You know, I love what they're trying to do. It's great, but Aztec hasn't seen it, you know, and both you, Mayor, and Mayor Pro Tem brought up exactly the same thoughts I've had for years, and I appreciate you reiterating those.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner. I heard somebody else. Commissioner Lewis?
It was. I like the idea of the railroad. However, I also have been around long enough to remember there was an earlier group talks about a railroad to this area, and I'm going to guess it was 25 years, 30 years. It was a while back. And it was a great idea then too, but bringing it to fruition is going to take quite a while. And I think Commissioner Padilla has a great point. I don't think any of us would live long enough to see it happen. And I like the projects he came up with, the broadband, that's an excellent idea, and the connecting between the different communities. But at the same time, we're walking a very fine line budget-wise this year, and we don't know what's going to happen next month or the next 6 months with our money, because COVID has put a real monkey wrench into the works. It's hard to plan. So while I think it's a laudable idea, I just don't know that we can afford to be too generous at this point.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And even, go ahead, Commissioner Randall. I see you unmuting.
No, I just wanted to play devil's advocate and say, as far as return on investment, it's probably hard because, just like Rosalind said, worrying about the families that with the unemployed, head of household. Well, possibly Forset could help with that alone. I mean, it's hard to see the return on investment just because we haven't had any industry come to Aztec. We could have had employees work with things that have come to Farmington. A lot of people work in Farmington. I'm just throwing that out there. I agree with all you guys. I'm just trying to think, devil's advocate, it's hard to say, what has been our return and measure it and say, well, then we're just not going to pay into it anymore because we haven't seen a return. And we may have seen it somehow. I'm just throwing that out there and trying to think.
I appreciate what you're saying. Yeah.
I think we all understand that too. I just wanted to kind of throw it out.
No, and you're right. A lot of these things are hard to quantify, and a lot of it might be kind of supplemental or ancillary type of effects that we don't see on a daily basis because we don't have like a big like Facebook or Amazon or auto plant coming into the Four Corners area, and I understand that, and I also don't want to get caught into seeming that we're kind of looking just at the end of our nose, because one of the things that we've talked about as a commission, and as a commission, at least for the last couple of years, sure it was well before my tenure here, is that we have to look long range as well, and we have to plan for the future, even though, we're still saving for retirement, even though we might have a little bit less to put away for retirement, kind of idea. We can't just say, well, we're only going to worry about today because things are tough. And we have to be proactive and think about the future and our future economically. And I'm just going to be very frank, and I've had this conversation with the commission before and with some of the folks that are on this call. I think some of the stuff that Forset is doing is redundant. Other agencies are doing it already with the federal government and with the state, for example, Workforce Solutions. And because of those things, I feel like we can redirect our funds to the more pressing needs of our community, especially during the time that we have now. And return on investment is always a slippery slope and tough to explain or to quantify. But if I could also add, unless I'm mistaken, we still haven't seen an agreement with Forset, to my knowledge, which is something that we talked about over a year ago. And here we are again with a funding request, and there's still no kind of agreement in place, or even that's been sent over, or vice versa. So with all that aside, those basic things still haven't been addressed. And that's, how you do anything is how you do everything in my book. And that's an example of it. And I'm not trying to be negative or poo-poo things. I just, I wanted to point that out. Some of the things that we talked about the last time we discussed funding still haven't happened, which is disappointing on my behalf, from my point of view. And that's really all I have to add to the conversation. Is there anybody else that would like to add anything before we entertain a motion?
I just have one more thing, and again, it's devil's advocate, just throwing this out there, because I know in the past we've had conversations about Aztec getting a bad rap for not being a team player with the other entities and all that. I just want to, throw that out there. I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. If we decide to not jump in with everyone else, it's because we think we can do something else and better spend our money. So I just wanted to throw that out there, make sure that, we all understand that there's, probably other conversations that might come out of our decision, but we all know that. That's why we're in this position.
Oh yeah, that's a fair statement and assessment. And I, to be quite honest with you, I feel like that is one of the things that has kept us at the table this long. I feel like these conversations have been boiling for 2 years from my experience, because that's how long I've been around. I wouldn't be surprised if they were going on before. I don't have privy to them, and that's really not the point. But I believe that concern of being seen as uncooperative or maybe not wanting to play with the other folks kind of thing, and that's a valid concern. But I think that might have kept us at the table at the level we've been at as long as it has been. And I appreciate the commissioners that are present tonight, and the folks that have been over the last couple of years, being willing to take this issue on and do something about it, definitively. So I appreciate, the comments. Mayor Pro Tem, you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment, one of my disappointments has been when I've attended those meetings that there are no Aztec business people there. We stay over in our, side of the county, and it's mainly Farmington business people. And so I felt like the lone wolf over there trying to hold up something for Aztec, when it's should be the business people that are interested in, plus us, but I was just really surprised that we didn't have, now they show up, a handful show up at EDAB and stay close to home, but I too, who mentioned that to be a team player and to buy a seat at the table is the question. But anyway, that's all I have to say.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir, Commissioner.
Quick, to refresh my memory, because I remember talking about this at various meetings. What are the contributions from the other communities right now? Does anybody know?
I do not know the answer to that. Maybe the city manager or Ms. Lamb might be able to give us at least an idea. Or Ms. might be able to give us an idea. I'll give the city manager and Ms. Lamb a stab at it first.
Yeah, I don't have an idea, Mr. Mayor.
Some financials that I saw, it's been over a year ago. I believe Kirtland wasn't making any contribution, and I vaguely remember maybe, and who knows what's going on right now with everybody's financial situation, that Bloomfield was putting in $2,500. But Aztec at that point was putting in the second.
Kathy, I didn't know if you had anything extra. I see you're unmuted there.
I don't.
What we hope to accomplish with this funding request. So personally, we were before the second highest as far as municipalities, and I don't think that's changed significantly. Maybe we're a little bit closer to the contributions of the other smaller municipalities, but I don't think that suddenly Kirtland or Bloomfield has been able to come up with, the funding to be able to do more. And I'm not certain, but I'm surmising that based on the past stuff that we've seen. Does that help, Commissioner Lewis, or are you good with that?
I'm good with that. There was a memory that I had of us discussing it, but it's been a while, obviously.
Right.
And,
okay.
Like I said, we just, like I said, that kind of contribution I don't think is within our means right now.
Right. Okay. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to add from the commission side? Hearing and seeing none. Like to entertain a motion for item D.
Mayor, I move to approve funding I know we always have to make it in the positive,
Correct.
so.
So you would just have to plug in the amount, basically.
Yeah.
If it's zero, yeah, I mean, it sounds a little odd.
Mayor, okay, move to approve funding to Four Corners Economic Development in the amount of $0 and request, and do not request an annual report.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? I'll second it. So we have a motion and a second. Carla, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Snover,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Fry,
Don't forget to unmute, folks, when you vote.
Aye.
Commissioner Padilla,
Aye.
Commissioner Randall,
Aye.
Commissioner Lewis.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, thank you, folks. Sorry, I gotta scroll back down. I think we're at Commissioner and Department Head reports, if I'm not mistaken. And we'll go ahead and start with Mr. Gobble.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this time, I do have some new business items to discuss, but I will wait for closed session to discuss those legally sensitive items.
Thank you, sir. City Manager, Mr. Mueller.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, Commission, just, I'll be very brief. I just want to keep in everybody's mind that we are monitoring the river. It continues to drop. Snow melt is pretty much gone. We are currently in stage 1, and that's where we remain most of the year, but we are considering when and if to move into stage 2. But we're keeping eyes on it. River, once again, is continuing to drop, so we'll continue to monitor and keep everybody informed as needed. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Lewis.
No report, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Randall.
No report, just wanted to give a shout out to Rosalind's cat for giving me the eyeball.
I've got 2 here. I got 2 cats that give you the.
I guess I do have a little report.
They're mad at you for putting that thing down.
We canceled our library board meeting. We just all thought it was better just to get Angela's report emailed to us and didn't find it necessary to discuss other than just communicate through email. And I'll have lodger's tax next Monday, so I'll have something to report on that. I believe a highlight on that one was that it appears that Microtel has a new owner. So,
That's right.
yeah, so hopefully it's good. We'll find out at the meeting how good it is. And as far as fishing report goes, no one's really we haven't been stocked here in Aztec, but Navajo's been pretty good for pike, and I hate it. So that is all. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Commissioner Padilla.
I really don't have a report, Mayor, but Thursday is EDAB meeting, and I know Rosalind tries to attend those, and I'm not gonna be able to. I have a doctor's appointment that I can't cancel, so if somebody else could attend that.
I'll be there.
Thanks, Rosalind.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mayor Pro Tem.
Well, I've been attending both the technical and the policy committees for the MPO. And all I can say is, wow, they are the most efficient groups, and they get down to business, report out, and close the meeting in 30 minutes. They've been making some changes in policy, and of course, it's all about planning on roads and trails and bike trails and and public transportation. So I'm learning a lot, but they are very efficient. Had another New Mexico seniors meeting to kind of finally get rid of the old and bring in the new. They've decreased the board size. City of Farmington is taking over managing all of the senior centers in the county. There's some questions about they really don't have a clear picture about the funds that have been applied for. So everybody's a little nervous about that. So I imagine we'll be seeing some information on that. Piano news, we put out two finished pianos Friday and Saturday in the plaza, and Brian Paul volunteered to be a piano player. I was a little nervous about going down to a crowd. There wasn't a crowd. Everybody was social distancing. We had our hand sanitizer out and so forth for anybody, but people really weren't touching the pianos. The plaza, the tables for Rubio's were all spaced. Majority of people, when they came in, were wearing their face mask. I felt much better when I got there than my plan on going down there, because I'm trying to be as cautious as possible. But anyway, we gave the teaser. An interesting thing that I saw Saturday when I was down there was no children were out. No children were out at on the tables at Rubio's, and no children were coming by to check out pianos. So I thought, well, people are keeping their kids in or in different kind of situations. But anyway, we don't know when we have 3 other pianos that are being painted. We don't know when they'll be finished. And I'm thinking end of August before we'll display other pianos, but people are putting in a lot of work. So we need to appreciate all those volunteers that are doing that. That's all.
Mr. Mayor, real quick, and Commissioner Fry, I apologize. I just want to be clear that the city of Farmington is not managing all the senior centers. They're just acting as the fiscal agent for the fly-through. I just wanted to make sure we're very clear on that. We continue to manage our center.
I'm sorry, I didn't word that properly.
Thank you for the clarification. And I'll try and take this pretty brief because we do have a closed session to go into. First, I want to commend the Mayor Pro Tem and all of the folks that this is really, kind of taken on a life of its own with this piano project. And I think it's really cool, even regardless of whether it's your style or your thing or whatever, anything that kind of brings some folks in a little bit of a party atmosphere and, fun down, I think is great. And quick congratulations to Rubio's for making it 20 years. Any restaurant anywhere in the world that makes it 20 years, that's a pretty impressive mountain to summit, let alone in a small town. So well done to them, and congratulations. Congratulations to the folks that have worked on the pianos and all the things related to that. And thank you to the Mayor Pro Tem. I have a airport advisory board meeting on Monday, and I don't really have much to report from the ECHO board meeting that I attended a couple weeks ago. I don't recall if it was before or after. I think it was after the last meeting because we've had a little bit of a gap. They have done, some really awesome things in the community, and as you may or may not know, they span the state more or less. The board and their CEO and kind of HQ is out of Farmington, but they have a pretty big presence, along with that big food bank in Farmington, but they also have a pretty big presence in Albuquerque as well. Made some approvals to buy a new refrigerator truck and some things that were necessary due to, wear and tear of the old stuff. It doesn't affect the city of Aztec's funding or anything like that. It's just more of an informational thing. And another thing, I had a meeting yesterday with the city manager, finance director, and utilities director, or electric department director, I'm sorry, Mr. Ken George and Ms. Kathy Lamb, along with clerk. And we are going to be taking a look at the solar base rate at the next meeting. And after the results of that meeting, we talked about it a little bit, some of the pros and cons, the ups and downs, whatever you want to call it. And we are going to be an intent to adopt, a change to the solar base rate. And I won't get into it too much here. Just know that it's going to be kind of in the staff report, and we'll be talking about it a little bit for the next meeting. And I appreciate your time yesterday. And as always, I want to give a quick shout out to everybody out there, especially our city staff. They've been working hard. I do not envy them trying to juggle, we're dealing with coronavirus, with the opening, the closing, the staffing issues, the budget issues that are driving staffing issues, and I just want to tip my hat to all the folks out there that are working hard. And I know that doesn't put any extra, food in your pantry or money in your pocket, but know that we all really, really don't know what we do without you, and we appreciate it. And you make our job much easier to accomplish every couple of weeks when we're sitting here making these funding decisions. So thank you so much. And if you would please pass that on to the folks that are working for you. With that, I will open it up to any department heads that want to give any quick reports before we go into special session, or closed session, I'm sorry.
Good evening. Is it my turn? Can you hear me? This is
Yes,
Cindy.
ma'am, go right ahead.
Okay, Mayor, Commissioners, good evening and thank you. I'll make it brief, but I had something I want to share to the seniors in the city of Aztec and surrounding community. On July 12th, 2020, I reached a 10-year milestone as the director of the Aztec Senior Community Center. And I've been involved in the community in many different ways throughout the years, but I wanted to share with you just what it has meant to me to be a part of this amazing city, not just as an employee, but as someone who's been blessed to be able to spend every day with such special people. My colleagues and the seniors, and to the Aztec citizens as well, you quickly became my extended family, and you have been so supportive. I've always surrounded myself with the members of the elderly population, and my first job at the age of 12 was taking care of a senior lady in my hometown. Mrs. Schwan would take me on a lifelong journey of loving, laughing, and crying, riding on an emotional roller coaster that would come to be known to me as my life's passion and career choice. Along with the other main elements of my life, most people know me from my work with people with special needs and horses, or from rescuing yet another of God's critters. But the relationships between the seniors of San Juan County and myself have strengthened me to be a person of humility, to be more accepting of the diversity and the differences that make each of our seniors unique. And even though coming into this position meant change for the seniors, which can be difficult for anyone, I would like to believe that through all that we have experienced together, we have grown closer through communication, understanding, and through the work we have done to make the center a better place for those who fellowship there. The accomplishments that we've made are many. Paint, furniture, kitchen equipment, card room, walk-in cooler, Bob's Garden, library, and stucco, just to name a few. We have greeted newcomers with an open heart and a smile. We have said goodbye to others with a broken heart and a smile. We have held hands, shared jokes, and even laughed at a few of them. We have celebrated, sang songs, danced, dressed in silly clothing, prayed, and supported one another through this emotional roller coaster that would come to be known to me as my life's passion and career choice. I am honored to be part of the changes and challenges that have made not only the center, but perhaps this community better for others, and am looking forward to many years of service as the director of the Aztec Senior Community Center. Thank you to the seniors, the city of Aztec, and surrounding community for the journey of a lifetime. And that's all I have to say.
Sorry, had to. Thank you, Ms. Jacobetta.
Thank you.
Mr. Saavedra?
Mr. Mayor, City Commission. Yeah, I just wanted to be very brief and let everybody know that during the late hours, behind the scenes, the City of Aztec is working with consensus planning on the comprehensive plan update. Right now, we have a steering committee made up of various individuals that are trying to lead the effort and try to get more participation so that we can get insight. And again, this is a guiding document, a vision for what the city should be within the next 20 years. So I just want to let everybody know that there is a survey currently online. So if you can complete that survey, or if you can encourage individuals to complete that survey, that will go a long way so that we can include everybody's voice, opinions, and insight as we go forward. Also, there is a public meeting that's going to be happening on July 30th. Now, unfortunately, that is a webinar, a go-to meeting, so it's not in person due to current situations. But I welcome everybody from the commission and anybody that they know to participate. I think the more individuals that we have, the more we can craft this plan going forward, and I think we'll be better off. And again, it's the comp plan is our vision going forward, and there can be funds associated with that. So we touched the base on rail, the plaza, and a lot of that stuff. So that's what the comp plan will include. So this is currently posted on the web, Facebook from the City of Aztec. It will go out in the utility bills, and we're just trying to get as much participation as possible so the comprehensive plan can be as holistic as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other department heads like to give a brief report? Okay, seeing none, I will go ahead and move on to item 11, closed session pursuant to section 10-15-1, H7 in parentheses, threatened or pending litigation regarding taxation revenue, gross receipts, tax revenue, and regarding Aztec Police Department, City of Aztec, Chief Hill, and Captain Troy Morris. This is Mayor Snover voting aye.
Mayor Pro Tem voting aye.
Commissioner Padilla voting aye.
Commissioner Lewis voting aye.
Austin Randall, voting aye.
Okay, folks, now we have to log off, and someone stop me if something's changed, but we have to log off and get back in with the link that was provided this evening via email. So if you need to take 5 seconds to let your cat out or something, do it right back in so we can get this going and get it wrapped up. I don't think it's going to take too long, but we've been at this for a couple hours. So let's try and get right back in as quick as possible. Thank you, folks. In a second.